Hi there. Welcome to Lyre. This is probably one of my favourite furry visual novels out there, and I simply couldn't pass up the chance to give it a playthrough on this channel. It's a particularly important one to me, and I'll leave that train of thought right there. And so I thought, what better time to pick this VN up for the channel than now, as it has, as of the 21st of November, just been completed. The final build is still Patreon only at the moment, but it'll be available for the public very soon, December 21st. Look forward to it. It's sure to amaze you. As with all the content I read on this channel, Lyre is an 18+ gay furry visual novel that touches on very mature themes, as well as very violent themes too, so be aware of that, as is my very obvious content warning. With all of that said, my name is Pinkwisp, and let's dive right into the first chapter of Lyre. Lights, camera, action. Chapter 1, Day 1. My hands crush snow between their fingers as I slowly crawl my way out of the rubble. A numbness caresses my side as my stomach lays flat on the cold snow. It's so dark that I can't see anything in front of me. I can hear clutter and chaos all around, but it's very faint, like a whisper. I lay my face into my arm and rest for a moment. My nose feels like it might just fall off. Breathing through it hurts. I can hear men shouting, some of them yelling in pain. My mouth tastes like metal. Suddenly, through all of the chaos, I hear a voice.
Is that him? Get him out of there, quickly!
Lyrian soldiers. A pair of arms grab me under my armpits, and the movement makes it harder to hold on to reality. I slowly succumb to the sleep my body has been yearning for. Then another voice. It's muffled, as if someone's speaking to me through a wall. I can barely understand what they're saying. I try to ask what they were saying, but I'm pulled from the slumber as if a rope were tied to me. Consciousness invades my mind, and I'm thrown out of my sleep. I roll over in the cool bedsheets, feeling the air around me compress. My eyes open to a thick light pouring down above me, hitting the foot of the bed I'm laying in. I hear the distant clatter of metal, along with voices. It feels like a cold fall afternoon, and there is a stuffy smell that lingers around me as I see dust particles dancing in the light. My mouth tastes dry. My heart starts to rhythmically beat in my chest, picking up pace with every second. I look down at my body and notice that I have thick bandages wrapped around my torso. I reach out with my hand just around my stomach and feel a twinge of pain near the lower right side of my gut. My mind is racing with questions. I sit up and the feeling of all the blood rushing to my head makes everything go dark. I shift in the bed and slowly wriggle myself out from underneath the covers. I go to lift myself from the bed and stumble a bit as I steady myself on the cold floor. I look around the decorated room I'm in. It is elegant, with a nicely sized bed, a desk, and a slightly open glass door that leads out into a balcony, where I can see the afternoon light shining down onto the floor. A few bottles and bowls of medicine are strewn about, laying on the cabinet in front of me. I slowly start to walk to the door when I suddenly begin to feel horrible. Everything seems to kick in at once as I'm slowly crouching to the ground. I crawled to the floor and lay there for a second, waiting for it to pass. As I lay there, feeling my insides twist around and dance in my body, the door opens, and I'm met with a creepy figure in a dark green robe, wearing a pointed mask and a hat. They look as if they were about to do something, but stop in the doorway. I feel their gaze fall on me from behind the dark goggles.
Ah! You're awake! Good! Yes!
He stutters this out with much effort in an odd voice.
Oh dear! Wait here for a moment, please. I'll be right back with help.
He prods and stumbles back through the doorway, leaving it slightly open, his feathery tail floating behind him. All I can do is lay there as I hear him scuttle off, calling someone's name. I start to feel a bit better, and the squeamish feeling subsides slowly. Just as the cold floor starts to feel nice, I hear muffled voices from outside the door. One of them I recognize as the bird, and another seems rather gruff and annoyed.
Of course, the minute I leave for a drink, something happens. How long has he been awake? Then I don't know. He was just lying there on the floor. Is he okay? Well, not really. He seemed to be in some pain, but that's expected. Or maybe he was just scared of you. What are you getting at? That mask makes you look ridiculous. It's a safety precaution.
I hear the footsteps and voices get closer until they're right outside the door.
Well, you'd never catch me wearing one of those.
The short, cloaked bird shuffles into the room carrying a bag. Walking behind him is a wolfman of sorts. He's very tall and muscular, almost having to bend over to walk through the doorway. He closes the door behind him. His right eye is scarred, and he has a semi-annoyed expression on his face, contrary to his tail slightly swishing left and right. His clothing is simple yet elegant, large, white and bulky, with fur trimming and metal plate armor. A large white cape drapes behind him with a blue interior. I see a symbol on the breastplate which I can somewhat recognize as the king's family sigil, a pair of antlers stretching high. He's coated with dark brown fur which is very fluffy around the neck. His eyes trail around the room, landing on me. He then walks forward and begins to speak.
Do you need any help?
I nod my head. He stands awkwardly for a moment before walking forward, his padded feet thumping against the smooth floor. The wolf then proceeds to kneel down and gently reaches out to pick me up. He pauses before hesitantly touching me, reaching under my legs with his paw and then reaches with his other arm around my back and grips my shoulder. The wolf lifts me up and adjusts me in his grip so that I don't fall. His neck fur grazes against my face as he carries me over to the bed and lays me down in it, gently reclining me back against one of the large pillows. I mumble out some appreciation. Thank you. He grunts in response.
God, Leaf, it's fucking cold in here. At least make him decent and give him a shirt to wear. Clothing would mess with the bandages and fresh air would do him some good. But besides, how are you cold? I'm not, but the floor feels like ice. I'm sure that he's fine.
I sit up in bed with some hesitation and open my mouth to speak. Who are you? The two turn and look at me, and as Leaf makes a motion to speak, the wolf places a paw on his shoulder.
My name is Lyall Reed. I'm the commander of the Royal Guard, and this is the royal family's physician, Leaf.
He says this with a certain twinge of proudness, his tail swishing slightly.
Yes, I'm sure we could dispense with the formalities for now. Do you remember anything before the crash?
I look down at my torso and the two connect. So that's what happened.
You can't remember?
He has a curious look on his face as his eyes stare into mine with extreme intensity, while Leaf scuttles over to the bedside table. Kind of. It's all a bit vague.
Here, have some water.
Leaf walks over to me carrying a small goblet of water. I accept it cautiously, bringing it to my lips and taking a short drink. Slowly, it all starts to come back to me as if I'd just woken up after a horrible dream. I was on my way north to the kingdom of Lyre, as an ambassador for the kingdom of Erin. During a cold and rainy night on the 11th day of travel, as we were nearing the outskirts of the kingdom, I remember minding my own business in the small closed-off cart. Suddenly there was a loud rumbling noise and shouting. That's all I can remember. I can't really remember much of what happened, just everything before blacking out.
When the mountains passed just outside the city, there was an avalanche. It wiped through most of your small entourage and killed some men. When our rangers came upon where it happened, your carts and wagons were almost decimated.
You had a piece of splintered wood lodged in your side. Thankfully, it didn't hit anything vital, and you seem to have recovered well over the past 4 days.
While Lyall rants about how the mountain pass is too dangerous to take anymore, I look down at my side and feel the bandages. It's painful, but not enough to bring a wince through my body. I was out for 4 days?
Aside from the occasional stirring in your sleep.
I quickly try to shake off the thought of someone watching me sleep. Well, that would have been pretty scary, waking up in the middle of the night to a 6.5-foot tall wolf in the corner of an unfamiliar room. Well, I hope this hasn't cut into anything important.
Is that still pronounced the same way?
Got it.
Don't worry, things have been quite slow lately. There hasn't been much being discussed, and we're still waiting for the ambassador from Driz.
He falls silent, at first staring out the window behind me before his eyes fall back down. His tail swishes slightly, and after a long, awkward pause, he speaks again.
The king has assigned me to be your personal guard.
This statement surprises me. I was not expecting the king to assign me a guard, let alone the captain himself. For some reason on my way here, my imagination led me to think of a king who was rash and dismissive and had no time for political nonsense. I thought I would be completely on my own. That's usually how it goes. As I'm thinking this, Leaf moves over to the other side of the room and fiddles with something in his little bag. I'm sure that you will do a fine job, sir. I'll make sure to give my thanks to the king. Lyall grimaces a bit, and his nose gives a small twitch.
You don't have to refer to me with such titles. Lyall is fine.
I give him a slight nod. This certainly isn't the introduction I'd hoped for. One moment I'm sitting in my cart heading around the mountain pass, almost to my destination where I would be received by the castle staff and possibly even the king himself. Instead, I wake up in my new chambers, unfortunately having missed everything important for my arrival. And as kind as these two are, the situation I find myself in is less than preferable. I sigh and shake my head. Well, as long as I haven't missed out on anything important. My thoughts still dwell on the crash. I haven't really had enough time to let it settle in that people just died. That I almost died. It's a shame that avalanche happened, and I'm very thankful that your rangers were able to save my life and many others. Lyall gives a slight smirk of acknowledgement, and I can already tell that he's a bit modest, even if his tail is sweeping the ground.
It's their job.
Leaf struts over to me with a small bowl of some weird mushy substance. It looks familiar, but I haven't had to take that much medicine in my life.
Here's something to ease the pain. This is most likely the last time you'll have to take it, considering you've healed very fast already.
I stared down at the bowl in discomfort as Leaf drones on about the unique healing process innate in humans, along with some other stuff I didn't care to focus on. I take the small bowl and drink down the strange mix. It has a thick consistency. The texture is like eating sandy mud. Not that I've ever done that before. The taste, however, is not as bad as I thought it would be. It has a savoury flavour that's very hard to describe. Still, not pleasant enough for me to thoroughly enjoy it.
If you don't mind, I'd like to take a look at your bandages and see how your recovery's coming along.
I look down at my side and lift the covers a bit. Sure, I guess. Leaf walks around to the other side of the bed and begins to awkwardly unwrap the bandages with his gloved hands. When I catch Lyall watching from across the room, he quickly averts his gaze. He certainly is expressive, though he tries to hide it. Leaf finishes unwrapping the bandages, and I finally get a good look at the wound. It looks a bit messy. A dark red colour around the skin, and the scar it left behind isn't pretty.
Ah, it's coming along nicely.
He's got to be kidding. He takes a damp sponge and begins to lightly dab and rub at it. I see the wound start to clean up nicely, and after a minute, Leaf rubs some weird cream on it with a sponge, and he seems to be done. Lyall has turned around, meekly fidgeting with something on the desk.
I'm not surprised to see that you're getting better very fast. You should be able to walk now without risk of opening up the wound. Just try to take it slow.
How can I take things slow when everything's happening so fast? That's good to hear. Thank you. Leaf seems to be happy to hear that his efforts are appreciated, as I can hear his tail lightly flipping up and down, rhythmically tapping against the ground for a second.
I'm always happy to help. Let me know if you need anything else.
And with that, he picks up his bag and makes his way to the door before turning to Lyall.
I'll leave the rest to you.
He shuffles through the doorway and it closes behind him with a soft thud. The silence settles once Leaf leaves. Lyall is clearly uncomfortable with it, so he speaks up.
Leaf usually knows what he's talking about, but are you sure you're okay?
He gives me a look of concern for a moment, but then his eyes dart, first to the floor, then around the room. Aside from my body feeling sore, after being awake for a bit, I feel better. I feel good enough, I guess. He looks at me with a smile and adjusts himself.
Well, if you want to get dressed, your clothes and other things were brought up.
He gestures over to the corner of the room where I can see my trunks and belongings. Even though I'm wrapped in bandages around my torso, I still feel underdressed, so I suppose putting on some clothes would definitely help. I make a motion to rise, but Lyall shoots me a worried look.
Maybe I could get you something to wear.
Oh, sure. Just the outfit from that trunk over there. I point to the trunk on the left, which has the outfit I was going to wear when I met the king. He makes his way over to the pile of trunks, his cape gliding across the floor behind him with each careful step. Lyall looks very out of place in this room. Everything looks so small compared to him. He bends down and unlatches the trunk. I see him pause to look at its contents, then proceed to curiously sift through it. His ears perk up really high when he finds the outfit. He clumsily stands from his kneeling position and walks over to the side of my bed, carrying the outfit. It's nothing too fancy. I may have some form of noble status, but I don't tend to overplay it. It is, however, the nicest outfit I own that fits the climate. The main parts of it are made from cotton, with bits of silk here and there, There's the basic undershirt with flowy sleeves and a slight ruffle. The trousers are layered and tight-fitting with pockets on the side. Tailcoats usually are not my favourite article of clothing to wear. Usually I lean towards robes or jackets. There's some fur and there's a small scarf I can wrap around my neck and tuck into the vest. Lyall places the outfit on the bed and takes a step back.
Is this the one?
He says this with a bit of worry, as if he made the wrong decision. Yeah, this is it. I sit up and grab onto the pair of pants. I go to change and realise what's wrong with this. Should I bathe first? Lyall looks at me with a dismissive gaze, then talks.
You smell fine to me.
I guess someone like him would be the best judge of that. I go to unbutton my trousers but stop, realising that he's watching. Do you mind looking the other way?
Oh, of course.
He quickly turns in his heel and stands at the other side of the room, staring out the window, the light eclipsing around his dark fur. I take off my trousers and undergarments, putting on a fresh new pair, then fasten the new slacks. As I secure the last button, I lift my head and speak in his direction. Okay, you're good.
Sorry.
He turns away from the window quickly, as if he was frustrated with something happening outside. I reach down for the shirt and bring it up over my head. As my arms rise above my head, I feel a sharp pain in my side and wince. Lyall clearly sees this.
Maybe I should help?
No, really, it's fine. I just need to... I slide my arms through the sleeves and my head pops up through the collar. Before I'm even able to finish putting the vest on, Lyall is walking around to the other side of the bed, carrying the tailcoat. He lifts it up, motioning to put it on me. He drapes the coat over me slowly, with the collar fitting around my neck. I carefully embrace it and start putting it on. So, you're going to be my guard?
If you'll have me.
He says this with a solemn look on his face. I guess it wouldn't hurt. I really don't mind it. I don't know if I'll need the protection, but it's always nice to be prepared. It's also nice to have a guide of sorts to show me around.
It definitely would help. Almost half your men were wiped out in that disaster. The king thought that you could use some extra paws. And I can show you the castle and escort you around town.
I would like that a lot. Although I don't know if I'll have the time for it. That sounds nice.
The king also thought that you might like to have someone in a high position that you can trust.
He says this with a certain proudness in his voice and a slight smile. I decide to humour him. What makes you think I trust you? He stops moving one of the sleeves up my arm for a moment, then starts again, and his mouth twists into an embarrassed smile. Don't worry, I jest.
Oh, very funny.
He grumbles to himself as I fasten the buttons on the front. So, you watched me while I slept. He's taken back by this statement.
I'm your guard. I was stationed outside of your room to keep watch. Believe me, it's not something I wanted to do. It's not like you were in any danger.
Why were you up at night? Do you take both the day and night shift?
I don't need to sleep all that much. Plus, I feel more awake at night.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that some races don't need as much sleep. Maybe 3 to 4 hours within a 24-hour period. I guess that's good for someone in his position. Well, it's fine. Again, I was only joking. I do enjoy watching this wolf get flustered.
You're just full of jokes, aren't you?
He shakes his head with a slight laugh, sighing as he looks at the floor. One of his teeth hangs out of his mouth in a goofy way. I take this moment of silence to get down to business. Does the king request my presence? I realise that it was a bit foolish of me to dress for the occasion before even considering that I might not even get to meet the king today. I'm just looking forward to meeting him and discussing certain matters that pertain to my job.
I'm not even sure the king knows that you're awake at this moment, but I assume he will find out shortly. Most likely, you'll be able to speak with him during supper tomorrow.
That does sound interesting. I definitely wouldn't mind having a nice meal right now. Speaking of supper, I'm very hungry.
Don't worry, that's already been taken care of. Leaf would have sent for one of the servers to bring you some food by now. Especially since they won't have to feed you with that weird tube.
Did they seriously have to do that? I feel sick at the thought.
Only twice, and don't worry, it's not that bad. That little twerp may be a bit weird at times, but he knows his way around medicine, and has been able to achieve things most wouldn't even imagine to be possible.
Lyall has an odd relationship with the bird. It sounds like he respects him, though. From what I've seen, he seems to know his way around his work, and I trust him. He seems pretty jumpy, though. I wouldn't imagine he's the best at surgery. Well, then again, I'm still here. Unless he had help?
So, how'd you find yourself in your position?
Well, that came out of nowhere. I think for a moment about what I should say. I don't want to give away too much about myself. Well, I was granted nobility in the West, and I'm good at what I do. At least I like to think that I am. Sometimes I feel like others have done all the work for me. The look on Lyall's face tells me that was a bit too vague.
What? That's it?
He has an unsatisfied look on his face. But then he shrugs.
I'm sure there's more to it.
Well, if I'm going to tell you my life story, you better tell me yours. And I'll need a drink.
Deal.
It's not even the 18th hour by the time the sun disappears behind the mountains, and I'm forced to light a candle. I've taken off most of my outfit, folded it, and set it down in the corner for tomorrow. Lyall is reclined in one of the chairs, telling me about when he was a squire, when there's a knock at the door. His ears perks up and he sniffs the air.
I thought I smelled food.
Really, because all I can smell is wine. He stumbles getting up, yet confidently walks over to the door. Though he tries to hide it, he's a bit tipsy. He opens it and greets the server. A cart is pushed in as Lyall steps back. The cart is filled to the brim with all different types of foods. I see a roasted duck, cooked fish, all laid on greens, surrounded by vegetables. I recognise these delicacies due to them being abundant where I'm from. There's some bread and cheese, and a weird sauce in a bowl off to the side. On a side tray there's a fresh bottle of wine, with what looks to be a piece of mint.
Thank you.
I call out to the server standing in the doorway. He nods in acknowledgement and leaves. Lyall stands there for a moment before adjusting his cape.
Well, enjoy your meal.
He makes to leave the room, but I speak up. Oh, you're not going to join me? He pauses for a moment and turns to answer.
That's very generous of you, but I'll just go eat in my quarters later. Besides, I already raided you with your wine. And I have stuff that I need to do.
I'm sad that I have to see him go, but he also looks a bit conflicted. I don't think I can be alone right now. I need some company after everything that's happened. Oh, come on, I insist. Besides, this is way too much food, even for someone who hasn't had a proper meal in days. He turns away from the door before closing it with a smile on his face.
Well, if it's okay with you, then I guess I can stay.
He walks back over to one of the chairs and sits down. I take a bunch of the food and put it on my plate. The fish looks really good, so I grab some of that first. There's a piece of parchment placed in the center of the tray. I pick up the note and read it. Enjoy. Ah. Maybe that's the chef? Once I'm done, Lyall begins filling up his plate. He takes quite a bit of it, and most of the duck is gone by the time he's done plating his food, and I thought that I was taking a lot. He plops into his chair and starts to eat. After a few minutes of somewhat quiet eating, he continues his story.
Anyway, I was a squire for Lord Bryn up until the age of 19. Then I was made an anointed knight by the king.
Wow, that's a really young age to become a knight. And now you're the captain?
Yep.
How old are you now?
22.
You're captain of the guard, and you're only 22. I blurt this out before immediately regretting it. I'm just about to turn 20 and I'm already being sent far away on diplomatic missions, so I guess I shouldn't be talking. But still, most people aren't even knighted until they're 21.
Believe me, I was just as surprised as you are. But a captain usually has the next in line selected in case they die. When Sir Runar died, he had me chosen as his successor. Everyone said he was grooming me for command, but I didn't really suspect it. The king was pleased with this, though, so I didn't question it.
He takes a grape, pops it in his mouth, and chews it with a distant look in his face. Did you not want to be captain? He stops chewing for a moment, then keeps going.
It's something that I wanted, but it just happened so fast.
Yeah, I understand. It must be stressful being put into a position like that so fast. Well, I'm sure you're doing a good job.
I hope so.
He takes another drink from his cup. I take another bite from my fish. It's soft and basically melts in my mouth. It's the best food I've had in a long time. Maybe it's because I was so hungry. The fish tastes considerably different from the fish off the coast of Erin. Lyall empties his cup and then reaches for the pitcher to pour some more.
So, Richter, how old are you?
I'm 19.
You looked a bit older than 19 to me.
I cock an eyebrow at him.
Not that that's a bad thing.
Ha! Well, the same could be said for you, Scruffy. I jokingly drag my finger across my right eye, hinting at his scar.
I guess so.
He reaches up and rubs a paw over his eye while chuckling. How did you get it? If you don't mind me asking. He contemplates for a moment, then pours more wine.
I'll tell you that story someday. And I need a lot more wine than this.
He lifts the bottle and sloshes it around slightly. His speech is a bit slurred due to the drunk state he's in. He takes a big drink from his cup and lowers it with a satisfied exhale. It must be interesting.
That's one way to describe it.
He picks up his empty plate and sets it on the tray. I'm finishing a piece of bread when I notice his eyes light up.
Can I have this piece of mint?
He holds up the little bundle of leaves. Yeah, you can have it.
Thank you. Mint is my favorite.
He pops a piece of it in his mouth and chews on it in pure bliss, his tail wagging. I finish my plate and place it on the tray. I'm feeling really tired now that I have some food in my stomach. I could tell Lyall senses this.
Thanks for letting me eat with you, but...
He gets up from his chair with a grunt and pats his stomach.
I should probably be going, and I'm sure you're gonna have a busy day tomorrow.
He starts walking towards the door. No need to thank me. You're good company. He smiles and opens the door.
Have a good night, and I'll be guarding the hall for a bit if you need anything.
Good night. He kind of stumbles through the door and closes it with a thud. I take off the rest of my outfit, blow out the candle, and then fall into bed. Today was certainly a strange day. I've only been awake for a couple of hours, but I feel so tired. My side still feels a bit sore, but it should get better with time. Lyall and Leaf seem really nice. Especially Lyall. I'm glad that I was in their care while I was out. I can't help but be excited to meet the king tomorrow. It may sound boring, but I'm actually looking forward to my job. The wine gets to me, and I slowly drift off. So, that's where I'll be leaving it this time. This was a very short chapter, introductory chapter, but it was a very, very nice one, I think. Very, very cute, very wholesome. It introduces us to our main characters, and I'm very much looking forward to getting deeper into this story because these characters develop in such a beautiful way. I really, 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 really have such affection for them. And I'm hoping you're looking forward to the progression of this story just as much as I am. But I'm going to leave this episode here. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll be leaving links as I usually do to the creator's Twitter page, the Patreon page for this story, and yeah, please go and support the official release, especially since this novel has just finished, but there are going to be more. Maybe. I'd say maybe. This has already been announced. Lyre is the first of a trilogy. There are going to be 2 more books. Be excited. I'm very excited. But yes, also while you're down there, maybe you might check out my links in the description below and subscribe to the channel, like the video, all those things that YouTubers tell you to do. But that is enough rambling out of me for now. This has been Pink Wisp reading Lyre, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.